people are questioning the actual qualifications of many people Donald Trump hired for jobs.
Why?
Because Elon Musk doesn't even go here.
I think you all have literally no idea how the government works.
I do not have the same opportunity as you. I'm not talking about how you feel, I'm talking about how I feel. Me, a black woman. I got a law degree, a master's, and 2 bachelors. Probably more education than all of y'all added up together.
Diversity, equity, inclusion needs to be a part of what we do. Asking for some simple rights. She's asking to be paid like you get paid. And she knows that that is not the case because she is a black woman.
Welcome back to Rattlesnake TV, guys. The liberal mainstream media is freaking out over Donald Trump saying afuera to DEI programs across the United States. And particularly the DEI hires within the liberal mainstream media are having a very tough time with this. So in this video, we're going to be watching Scott Jennings taking on some strong independent black women at CNN. And this one is one of the most ridiculous conversations I've ever heard. It's actually difficult to comprehend how somebody can be this delusional and have this much of a victim mentality, whilst at the very same time occupying such a position of unearned privilege. And this one heats up more and more as it goes. So with that, let's get into the first clip.
A cabinet that has perhaps more Fox hosts than people who...
You know what makes
people
them
of color.
Yes. No, don't do it. Let her finish.
And I would just ask, Scott, if race is not the issue, then why is DEI mentioned every
5
single
seconds.
day as a solution to every single problem that faces this
Because of how pervasive it is,
but do you
and
think
how
it's
hateful
really
it is
true?
to an actual conservative ideological view.
But do you think it is true that all of America's ills, from the plane crash to whatever it is, wildfires, due to DEI for real?
I think that if you believe in the fundamental principle of America, which is that we guarantee everybody an equal chance, not an equal outcome, but an equal chance, then trying to go around that principle, conservatives don't believe in it. And most people who believe in America don't believe in it, number one. Number two, the concept of not hiring the best person for the job in government or anywhere else has been repeatedly rejected by the American people, the Supreme Court, and everything else. And so
what do you get? So I guess what I'm saying is, like, if that is the case, then people are questioning the actual qualifications of many people Donald Trump hired for jobs.
Yeah.
So do you think that he actually...
Why?
Because Elon Musk doesn't even go here.
Do you think that he...
That's why.
This is the question people are asking. This is the question that Ryan Clark just asked. Did Donald Trump, for Health and Human Services, find the person with the best expertise to address
this is not a
when it comes to the Department of Defense, did he find the person with the best expertise to address those issues, or did he just find people who he liked?
Political appointees have one qualification. They serve at the pleasure of the president because the president believes that person's going to best carry out their agenda. That is the only qualification.
And to protect and defend the Constitution.
And that is the only. That's the only qualification for a political appointee.
Competency doesn't matter.
Of course, they're competent. Of course, he believes they're competent. If he didn't believe they were competent, he wouldn't appoint them.
You're not being fair with that. You're not being fair with that response. She asked you a very simple question: yes or no. Look at the appointees. Do you believe DEI had anything to do with those appointees? Do you believe they were qualified? Do you think they would protect and defend the Constitution that represents all of the people of the United States of America?
I think Mark Rubio.
I think you all have literally no idea how the government works, is what I actually
do.
I do.
Yeah, they don't know much about anything by the sounds of things. Now, you guys may have picked up at the start when she said, why is everybody always talking about DEI if race is not the issue? Well, actually, we wouldn't be talking about DEI if you leftist lunatics didn't create it and then spread propaganda throughout the entire media about it. That wouldn't be a thing. Secondly, you brought it up, and you brought up Trump's cabinet as if to say that there's too many white people or white men in this cabinet, as if that's a problem. The left is 100% responsible for DEI being this massive problem. Now Trump is back home in the White House and he is ready to clean up. And you guys should be happy about this because you don't need DEI. You are a bunch of strong, independent, competent black women. You're perfectly capable and qualified, right? Well, this one's about to get a lot worse. But furthermore, they're trying to make this stupid point as well about Trump using DEI. No, Trump hired Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, to be in charge of Doge. Pretty competent and capable guy. He also hired RFK, which they're complaining about, RFK is the most qualified person in the entire country to take on Big Pharma because of his experience litigating against them. Trump wants results, and that's what he's getting, much to the chagrin of these clowns. So let's carry on, guys. But before we get there, don't forget to smash that like button if you haven't already, and subscribe to the channel if you want to be a part of this bustling community.
At a higher level than anyone here.
A couple people at this table have served in the government.
Yeah, me too.
Including for this former president.
I just want to say that I think the premise that DEI exists and therefore the people that got the opportunity, perhaps because of DEI, are not qualified is a flawed premise.
Correct.
And I think that is what is so frustrating about the argument around DEI. We know in this country historically, and even today, there are still injustices in this country based on race, based on gender, based on ideology.
Based on who your daddy played
golf with. Yes.
Okay, that happens every single day. We know that.
But it happens every single day all over the planet.
That's
the
what I'm
planet Earth. It is human nature. It is human in every single, and we're the best at it. We're the best at trying to
Donald Trump's our president.
Arthur, I guess that's exactly my point. I agree with you. I think that it is true that there have been preferences not for merit since the dawn of time, and that in this country right now, the same people who are going after DEI, which is about giving opportunities to people who have been historically marginalized, are just as willing to hire their friends.
Is that what equity means? Giving opportunity or guaranteeing outcomes?
It's giving access.
Because that's what equity means.
It's
a difference. There's a difference between equality and equity.
No, it's giving access.
I just want to answer his question because I think this is
talent
super,
and hard work
Scott,
give you
I think this
access?
is incredibly important for you to understand and for everybody to understand at home, okay? This is where I think we go crossways on this issue. You just asked the question, what does equity mean? Does it mean equality or does it mean access to opportunities? And conservatives want to define it a particular way, but you have to acknowledge, I'm asking you to acknowledge that people who believe in DEI do not define it that way. They do not define it as equality.
I think they define it as trying to guarantee outcomes, and I think they define it as trying to punish people they don't like.
Scott, that's
wrong race, wrong gender.
Speaking from more of the middle of the country who's not hyper-partisan on this issue, I think that people generally think diversity is a virtue. It makes businesses better. It makes institutions better. But they also don't like when you have companies or organizations that are spending huge amounts of money to stand up DEI office. As an example, Fairfax County Public Schools, $400,000 spent on a DEI office, but kids are not reading at the levels that they should. They're not advancing at the levels that they should. It's not the issue
of diversity.
Were they
doing that before the office was stood up?
Well, no, and probably not. And so I'm not saying the connection.
So maybe implementing DEI might actually help people have a better
But it's not an argument against DEI. It's how much of our resources are we actually putting.
But that's not that's not the way the conversation is being posed in America today. The conversation about DEI and woke and all of that sounds about marginalized Black and brown people who already are threatened seem to be threatened in this community, in this society, and they're not getting the same opportunities. It was the same thing with affirmative action. Went to UCLA. They got rid of affirmative action. Everyone said you got in because of affirmative action. When I graduated, affirmative action didn't take my test. Affirmative action didn't help me get to where I'm at today. It gave me access that I didn't have based on the opportunity that I lacked because of the circumstances I was born into, which had nothing to do with me, but the country in which we live in. So the reality is...
Have you seen the test scores of UCLA Medical, by the way?
My point being, Scott, is that everyone doesn't have the same access. People like to hire their friends. They like to hire the people that they like to be around.
Do you think they like to hire the best people for the job?
But I also think around the idea of diversity.
No, Donald Trump hired all of his friends.
So, first of all, they're trying to make the point that there is systemic injustices happening in America, and they are correct about that because white men are being systemically oppressed when it comes to hiring practices and also college admissions. DEI is the only real form of systemic discrimination that we can actually put our finger on today. Next, they're trying to say that equity doesn't mean equality of outcome. That's not what we mean when we say it. Equity means equality of access. Well, I hate to break it to them, but if you get access to the job or you get access to the college, that's an outcome. Once you are in the building, we're not talking anymore about an opportunity to get in the building. You're already in there. And then the lady in red comes in. I guess she's meant to be on Scott's side, but she says that diversity is a virtue and that people pretty much agree on that. I'm sorry, who are you talking about? She says it makes businesses and institutions better. Which businesses, which institutions?
Diversity is a virtue. It makes businesses better. It makes institutions better.
What are you?
An idiot sandwich.
Idiot sandwich what?
An idiot sandwich, Chef Ramsay.
And what do you mean by diversity? Do you mean racial diversity? Because I would love to see the evidence for that claim. Anyways, let's move on now, and this is where it gets really ridiculous. Just listen up.
The issue in this country right now is we live in different realities.
That's right.
I live in a reality where I know I do not have the same opportunity as you. I know I don't.
And you know
and
that
I know
too.
Let's go.
I got it.
And you know that.
Let me just tell you about me.
I'm gonna let you finish, but I want to answer this.
I'm not talking about how you feel. I'm talking about how I feel.
But not in this city.
And I will run. And if you want
Look, I'm
me
a
to,
New Yorker, not in
I
this
will
city.
run
You cannot
the
say
facts.
that. You
I
can't
will
say
run.
that in this city. I have a.
I'm not talking about New York. I'm talking about Ashley
let her finish.
Allison
Okay,
right
let her
here.
finish. Let her finish.
I got a law degree, a master's, and 2 bachelors. Probably more education than all of y'all added up together at this table,
Fine
right?
by me.
And I have always been the least paid person on payroll at every institution I have worked in. And it's not
Even
because...
in the White House?
Even in the White House.
Well, whose fault is that? I don't think he worked for George W. or Trump.
Well, guess wasn't what happened when I was there? DEI.
Scott.
Look,
Go ahead, Scott.
Look,
you're my friend. I respect you tremendously. I think you're probably the smartest operative in the Democratic Party, and they should listen to you more. That's number one. Number two, you and I share a comparable background. We're both from the Midwest. We both come from middle-class families, lower middle-class families maybe. I actually think we share a lot of similarities in our journey. But I think you made it, and you are the most respected voice often at every room or every table you're in, not because of anything other than your talent and your work ethic. And that's all anybody ever is asking for, is for people with talent and work ethic to make it. And that's what I see in you. That's how I see you.
But let me tell you something about my story and my family's story, is that we have faced discrimination. I have faced discrimination. I just said I was the least paid person, even in this moment sometimes, to my counterparts. It is just the reality of the country we live in. And I'm not saying, I do believe I'm qualified. I know I'm qualified. You won't ever tell me I'm not qualified. But the system that I live in doesn't matter about my qualifications.
I don't agree,
think we're
because
there in
when
2025.
Oh, come
I don't think we're there in 2025.
You can't deny
That's just not true. That's just not true.
There's a mountain of evidence that suggests that you are wrong. Okay, let's just
Again,
take Ashley.
I'm a New
let's
Yorker,
just-
so I'm jaded. I have the
okay.
Attorney General as a
I'm
black
not-
woman.
okay,
The
we
mayor's
just
a
went- we
black
just
man.
went
The
from-
head of the Senate is a
we
black
just-
person.
Okay, New York is a small
Okay.
representation.
Well, small.
of the
New York is
United
not that
States
small.
of America.
Politics. Let me just talk. Let me talk about
Every judge I
numbers.
appear before
Because
is either a
Ashley
woman
just
or a
gave-
person of
Ashley
color.
just gave an anecdote.
Okay, so just from the jump there, she says that she lives in a reality where she does not have the same opportunity as Scott Jennings, as she sits on the same panel on the same TV show as Scott Jennings. The lack of self-awareness on this woman is actually astonishing. And I wonder why people are afraid to call women like this out on these shows. She goes on this big sort of victim rant about how much of a victim she is and how she is so educated, but she's always the lowest paid wherever she goes. I mean, that is definitely bullshit, but for a second, let's just grant it. Let's just act like she's telling the truth. In the modern market, companies will literally fall over themselves to hire a black woman to try and fill their diversity quota. I've worked in recruitment and I know this. And let's just be honest about it. That's the only reason that she is on this panel right now. I mean, she has an insufferable personality and she can't really string together a logical and coherent thought.
Donald Trump's our president.
Arthur, I guess that's
If she truly is so qualified and so brilliant, as she won't shut up about, and she can't get paid more than the janitor, then guess whose fault that is? Because the market will dictate your value. And in the current market, or at least the way it's been for at least the past decade or so, as an educated black woman, you have every possible advantage that you could possibly hope for, which is why you're on TV right now. And if you can't make a good crust out of that, then that is completely your fault. And I think you may have missed the gravy train anyway. Furthermore, while they're all crying about how hard it is for black women, as is usually the case on these panels, 50% of the panel is made up of black women, and black women make up 7% of the United States. So why are black women on this panel represented in excess of 700% of their population? And will they be campaigning to have more white males on the panel. And lastly, she actually might be able to make a point if she started speaking about black women who are single mothers, who are working 3 jobs, living in inner city neighborhoods. I mean, there is real problems there, and that's a more interesting conversation. But all she talks about is me, 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 me. Look how much of a victim I am with my college education and my unearned opportunity.
Me, a black woman in this country. So I'm talking about how I feel. I got a law degree, a master's, and 2 bachelors. I have always been the least paid person on payroll at every institution I have worked in. And it's not
Even
because
in the White House?
Even in the White House.
Well, whose fault is that?
Honestly, just imagine being this high on the fumes of your own delusion. Let's carry on.
But the numbers also show black women are one of the most educated demographics in this country and one of the least paid. Why would that make any sense?
Why would that make any sense? And don't talk to me about the judges you stand before. Talk to me about the theory.
Hold on.
Talk to me about the world in which we live in and the
Let's look at
system
the
that
United
we live
States
in.
Supreme Court. How could you say we're not going to look at that from the top to the bottom? And I'm talking about the legal system.
New York is a more
that I live in.
progressive
And we just got a black woman.
Hold up. Let me.
We just got a black woman on the
Okay,
board.
we got a black man from the 70s.
You brought up the Supreme
Or
Court.
the 60s.
One.
Did you know, Arthur, that there are many...
Hold on. What percentage of it does it represent the United States of America?
Why
So why does it matter?
Why
So we
is it
gotta
so
go by
hard?
Guys,
numbers?
one at a
Why
time.
is it-
But
why
you're
is
trying
it
to-
so
So
hard
we
to
gotta- we can only
acknowledge what she just said?
can
Why
only
is it
have
so hard?
Why is it just
13% of
one?
justice.
Why is there only one Italian American?
No, but why is it so hard for you to acknowledge what she just said about black women being the most educated
I
and
did
the most
acknowledge it. I said that's
And
not
you-
my experience.
Okay,
If that
but
was
we're
the case,
because
let's
you're
have
not a
more
black
black women on the
woman.
No, I'm a New Yorker, and
but
that's
New
not
York
the
is
way
not
it is in New
representative
York.
of the rest
You're
of America.
correct.
That's
You are
also what's
correct.
It's also the
important.
most diversity in the country.
Well, that's exactly.
Like,
So of
why
course
wouldn't it
there's
be?
more
I think it's a
representation
little
in
more
women.
representative.
And Scott, I think if you really see, you said something very beautiful. This is your friend. You guys share a lot of the same values. You guys think alike. You guys are literally friends off air. You text, you have good conversations. There is the yes and in that. There is something that says to me that you know what she's saying is true. You think she's smart. You know that she's smart. She's more educated than mostly everyone at this table. And so what she's saying isn't a lie. What she's saying is a real life experience. And so why is it so hard to understand why something like diversity, equity, inclusion needs to be a part of what we do in a system that never even acknowledged a group of people, never saw us as a human commodity, just literally never noticed who we were. And now here we are years later asking for some simple rights, some simple civilities. She's asking to be paid like you get paid. She's asking to be acknowledged like you get acknowledged. And she knows that that is not the case because she is a black woman.
She had a high-ranking position in the White House of the United States of America.
Dear friend,
she is one of the most celebrated political operatives in the country.
There's
Do you know how hard I had to work to get that?
Do you know how hard?
Do you
know how hard the son of a garbage man had to work at it? So I'm just telling you.
I'm not saying that, but
talent, and work ethic are everything, and that's why I think you're here.
It's not true. It's just not true. It's just
look,
not true.
The other thing is the access to opportunity is. I know you don't want to think that that is true, but access to opportunity is what DEI is supposed to address. And not just when it comes to race, although race is important, but when it comes to women, when it comes to people with disabilities, when it comes to people from different socioeconomic brackets from rural parts of the country.
I think that's the biggest issue. There's different socioeconomic brackets
So now
more
we're
than
trying
race
to
and gender.
say, now we're trying to say that everything is equal just because I say it is, even though all the evidence.
Who said everything is equal?
Well, that's literally we're already living in a meritocratic society, is what Scott and his colleagues want to say, when that's actually factually not true.
Do you not think everything is equal?
But I think it's generally.
I don't think
it's generally true.
But I think it'll seek its own level. I don't think the government should be telling us to seek its own level.
But you literally earlier
hold
just
on,
said
DEI is not about the government. Y'all are talking to private companies and telling them you can't
do
operate
it. It's
about both.
the way you want to operate.
But Arthur, you
it
literally
is
just
about
said, I don't think it will seek itself out, because you literally just said human nature. That's how we operate.
That's right.
Sometimes,
Yes,
which is why the
I
civil
think
rights
it's more
movement was
I
so
think it's more
important.
socioeconomic than it is
This is why, like, when they
racial.
talk about like canceling the Department of Education, why they talk about the federal government. The reason why the federal government was so important, particularly for Black people to seek justice in this country, is because it was the one bastion of hope that people had when states took control and they had discriminatory practice laws.
Okay, but
the
that was a long
Supreme
time
Court.
ago now.
What? How long ago? Tell me how long ago was that?
That was a
How
long
long
time
ago was that?
We gotta go. We gotta go, but it was not that long ago.
I know.
It was not that long ago.
Yeah,
It was in Ashley's father's lifetime. It was in my parents' lifetime.
Okay, so the claim that black women are the highest educated but the least paid is just wrong in every possible way. Black women are not the most educated. White women and Asian women both outpace Black women in education, and particularly in the STEM fields, which obviously will pay more. So that's just another falsehood that I wish that they would call her out on. Also, they're not even the least paid. And this isn't because of discrimination. I mean, for all of the posturing and for all of the claims they made here, they never actually made a single case, or they never actually presented any evidence that racism or discrimination was to blame for any of the claims, even though all of the claims are already false. But for this claim, yes, they're lower rated in terms of earnings, but they're only lower rated because they are overrepresented in lower paying fields such as hospitality and retail and healthcare and education. Anyways, my favorite bit there is when they were doing a big sort of circle jerk, just kissing her ass and saying that she needs some basic rights.
Here we are years later asking for some simple rights.
Basic rights? What does that even mean? And then Scott Jennings says you had a high-ranking position in the White House.
She had a high-ranking position in the White House of the United States of America.
Dear friend,
she is one of the most celebrated political operatives in the country.
To
which she responds by saying, do you know how hard I had to work to get there?
You know how hard I had to work to get that?
Well, no shit. Do you know how hard everybody who's ever achieved anything ever had to work to get there? What do you expect? To be carried on a float whilst being fanned and fed grapes all the way to the White House? I mean, maybe that is a reasonable expectation for somebody who is a DEI hire and somebody who does have unearned privilege. But for white males like me and like Scott, we just can't live like that. We got to live in reality. So anyways, guys, don't forget to smash that like button, hit that subscribe if you have not already. And if you would like to watch another video, right here. Till next time, I'm Jake. This is Rattlesnake TV, keeping you armed and dangerous.